That was an incredible last session. Thank you all so much. And as we see everyone streaming in, we are so honored to have you guys back as we are kicking off another session. And I know that we had to skip our break to keep time. So, of course, take care of yourself if you need to run to the restroom and regenerate yourself as we continue on our journey. Thank you all.
Thanks, Rox. All right, Stephen, such an honor to be able to introduce you. Stephen is a BFI member, active across so many of our programs, helping us think through the cooperating manual for Spaceship Earth right now, in addition to being an artist here, an active member of TrimTop Space Camp. Such a delight to be able to work together. Stephen is the founder of the Builders Collective, which is a project to document a community into existence. And he's doing that right now, really building into this model, a community model for a regenerative future. He is a systems thinker, loves complexity, loves mapping, and putting that complexity into visual form so that we can all navigate and have a shared narrative together. So such a pleasure to have you as part of BFI in the studio. I'll pass the baton to you.
Great. Thank you so much. So I'm really happy to be part of this. I'm just going to be presenting the evolution of a designer and from physical artifacts to living systems. So 101 years ago, the world was experiencing a biological pandemic, personal disillusionment, social breakdown, economic collapse, and a global political conflict. In the aftermath of the collapse of Germany's monarchy at the end of a world war in April of 1919, amidst Germany's first experiment in democracy in the Weimar Republic, the Bauhaus was created to respond to these multiple crises by gathering artists and architects to reimagine and rebuild the world. Now, 101 years after the beginning of the Bauhaus, we are again living through multiple systemic crises: biological, personal, social, economic, political, and ecological. And I find myself working with the Design Science Studio and the Living Systems Collaboratory. This is Design Science 101. We are forming a creative, collaborative, self-organizing learning community. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this awakening of a new consciousness about the way we can live and work together to create a world that works for 100% of life. My evolution as a designer began very early in life. I've been drawing since I could hold a crayon. I've been thinking about design for about 40 years since junior high school. I've been working as a professional designer for 32 years. From the beginning of my career, I was wondering how to recreate the creative community of the Bauhaus for the current context. But I am a designer who thinks about the big picture. I see myself as having been in process, connected to the evolution of the universe since the beginning of time and space. We are all in process, a process of becoming. But all we have is this moment. We have this human experience of present awareness, a memory of the past, and an anticipation of what may come in the future. There are things that we can control, and then there are things that are out of our control. That is why I'm so fascinated by both design and science. Design recognizes that we have agency to create ideas, tools, and architecture. Science recognizes that we are in an environment that operates by generalized principles that we can understand. Science is about the way things work. Design is about the things that we can change. To be part of the Design Science Studio is to be part of the process of discovering the agency we have when we collaborate together to understand what we have come from, who we are, and where we are going. Buckminster Fuller had experience in navigating ships. He made the analogy that as human beings, we are navigating spaceship Earth. However, there is a missing operating manual for the spherical ship spiraling through space. We may not have any control over the trajectory of the planet in its orbit around the sun or its trajectory around the Milky Way galaxy, but we can control how we steward our limited resources on a finite planet. Just in time, we have created tools that enable us to be able to make better sense of the way we are using the Earth's resources. We can control the trajectory of our goals, our habits, and our communities. While it seems that our choices don't amount to that much as individuals collectively, the work we do has an impact on the kind of world we are building. I was raised to believe a story about the genesis of creation, how the heavens and the earth were spoken into existence. As a designer, this was fascinating to me, how ideas could become reality. Through the craft of design, I've had the opportunity to be part of creative collaborative projects that have been able to turn ideas into reality. We have created posters, magazines, books, websites, brands, and corporations. Together, we have created giant technology companies that have connected the world through wires, devices, and screens. The technologies that were supposed to connect us now make us feel more separated, disconnected, and isolated, and we become more afraid of what the future could be like for ourselves and for the generations to come. But if we think about it, we've all been in a process of becoming. We thought we were just designing the physical infrastructure and architecture of our world. Actually, we're designing global social systems that are impacting the life support systems of our planet. Our living systems are dying, and we are desperately in need of a redesign. What if we could get into a spaceship and see ourselves from a different perspective? The overview effect is a cognitive shift in awareness reported by some astronauts during spaceflight, often while viewing the Earth from outer space. You can be part of a modern renaissance for the regeneration of planet Earth. Join us as astronauts of Spaceship Earth, a group of designers, scientists, and artists who are collectively guiding the trajectory of our planet. Learn more at builderscollective.com.
Thank you, Stephen. That was beautiful. I'd love to be part of the Bauhaus. And thank you, Linda Ravenhill, as well, for emceeing this last session. Next up, we have Ashley Phillips. And I also wanted to say just a beautiful shout out to all of the artists that have shared in the first session. And we hope that you can join us for this session if you aren't here already with us. So Ashley Phillips is a maverick artist. He loves experimenting with material surfaces, new and old technologies, and techniques to create his art. It's paramount that his art has been a compelling narrative that has enabled the audience to connect deeply with it. He's been a professional artist for 30 years, and he's also an incredible activist. Welcome, Ash. Oh, I love it.
Thanks, Faith. Wow. Okay. So, got 5 minutes to tell you my story. So I'm from London, UK. I'm an art activist. I'm passionate about sustainability, about mental health, and the project I've been working on with the Design Science Studio and the Buckminster Fuller Institute is, in some ways, can I describe it as the Winnie the Pooh project of this great collaboration of 144 amazing humans who I'm blown away by. There are some extraordinary ideas being talked about and worked on that you've already seen and heard about. And somehow my project feels not less than, but certainly more simple, maybe. So I suffered for 2 years of clinical depression in 2015, 2016, and I broke through the glass floor at the end of 2016, almost 4 years ago, and I tried to kill myself. So I'm a suicide survivor, and if it wasn't for my brother-in-law, I wouldn't be here. But I am, and thankfully I am. And through that recovery and going that dark and deep, I realized how much my life was being controlled by fear and how much other people are controlled by fear. And fear is kind of created in the media and in politics. And I felt I didn't have any way of stopping that. I couldn't do anything in the world that would actually make a difference. And then through being a part of the design science studio and a project I kind of started at art college 20 years ago, the idea of how can we combat fear? What is the way that we already know? An international language, a language that stretches and reaches out to every single race, color, creed, age, from a baby to an old lady. Doesn't matter what age, what race, what color, what gender, everyone knows how to laugh and smile. And when you laugh and smile, you can't be fearful, you can't be sharing fear. There's something that breaks down. So my idea 20 years ago, and I still haven't quite put it into practice, but hopefully with your help I might. The idea is that if we had at pedestrian crossings, where you go and press the button to cross the road, as you press the button, while you're waiting, a loop of contagious, mixed, brilliant laughter plays. And if there's someone on the other side of the road waiting to cross as well, you're both hearing this laughter, or the group of people are hearing this laughter and looking at each other and looking across the road. And in that moment, maybe, just maybe, sharing a smile or a laugh. And in that moment, something's happened. They've broken that spell, that fear. And if we can build on that and have laughter pods around the world and in different places where, as you're going about your daily business, that you start laughing. And I know it seems very simple, but it's also one of those things that we know how to do. As a laughter yoga, when I came out of hospital, the first thing I did was I retrained as a laughter yoga leader, because I realized that was the solution. And then I went and met Patch Adams a few months later and met him again a year later. And he's an extraordinary man. And we can do this. So if you would like to be involved in this project, please get in touch and share your laughter with us.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ash. Laughter is so important. It's so important. Every day we should all be laughing.
It's the best medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up, we have Monika Sininska. I'm sorry if I slaughtered that. She's an art director, motion designer, and storyteller. She's a co-founder of Space Jackets and a creative studio that works at the intersection of design, nature, and technology. She's obsessed about explaining complex ideas in the simplest ways through animation. Maybe you can say your last name.
It's Polish. It's Sieminska.
Sieminska. All right. Thank you, Monika.
All right. Hello. Another hello from London. Ash, I was blown away by your presentation about fear as well. I actually wanted to share that I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I've got a fear of failure. So if I get a bit stressed out, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna actually talk about failure of my project and then the rebirth of it. So let me share my screen. Got it. All right. So a year ago, I was working already for 12 months on a project that was trying to tackle a question: how to speed up individual behavior change. We don't have much time left, and we really need to change very quickly. I gathered team, a very nice, cool team, some scientists and social media people, and we worked quite a lot. And we did some workshops, we had some ideas, we wrote a lot of emails. It was crazy. You know, as a perfectionist, I wanted to be really prepared and research everything really well, maybe a bit too well. But basically, we settled on the idea of giving people knowledge so they can act sustainably, because some people are nowadays even confused about how to recycle stuff, or what food is more sustainable and what is less sustainable. And yeah, so that's what we did. We wanted to gather some questions from normal people, send them to scientists, and then animate them, so it would be a bit more digestible for the audience. And we did a little test. We gathered the questions, about 30 or 40 of them, and I, as an animator, was supposed to animate one of them. Our scientist Ascanio picked one of the questions, and I totally failed because the answer that he gave us was just so boring and so full of numbers that I was trying for a few weeks, and I felt like, okay, I'm not gonna make it sexy. There's no way I'm gonna make it sexy. I'm very sorry. So yeah, I felt like a failure, and I decided to put the project on the shelf. And 2 months later, 2020 came, and at the very beginning of it, I realized I did something which is the least sustainable thing in the world. I realized I was pregnant. So that started a long pause for me, and then the pandemic started as well, and it was really time to slow reflect and think about like life completely differently, and become a mother. And that was also life changing and like idea changing for my project. And I started reading a lot of books about like birth and parenting. And if there's one insight that I took it for my project, was that children don't do what we tell them to do, they do what we do. And we could easily change that into people don't do what scientists tell them to do, they do what other people do. So I realized that our idea was doomed to failure from the very beginning, and we needed another approach. Yeah, I needed to become pregnant to realize that. I realized I don't want to be that parent that's going to tell my kid what to do and know all the answers. I want my kid to be creative in finding solutions, also solutions to planetary problems. And I also want my audience to be the same. So I don't want to be authoritarian parent. I want to connect. And that's when I applied for the design science studio with the project called Replay Earth, where we decided to animate and share positive stories of ordinary heroes. So all of you that are trying to make little sustainable changes, no matter how small, and just share your stories, because if you share them, other people can get inspired. And during the last few days, I did very quick website just to share something. And what I'm asking you to do is to think of a story. I record 1 minute video of you telling your story, and then I'm gonna do a test animation, and then hopefully I can grow that project and launch it with many stories and many animators in February. And when it comes to the questions, these are the questions that are supposed to trigger positive stories. Hopefully they're going to be inspiring. You can check them out on the website. And this is the little one. This is Ivo. He was a bit premature, and the birth was totally different than I imagined. It wasn't a home water birth. It was a quick hospital birth. But you know what? I mean, it was still amazing. So that's why I decided to share this project a bit prematurely and test it out without all the big work, because premature is better than overdue, and we really need to act quick. So if you want to read more, go to Replay Earth and share your story with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Faith, just FYI, maybe on request and request again. So I will go ahead and introduce our next speaker, unless I can get Faith's wonderful vision up here. For some reason, I can't, Faith. So that's all right. So our next speaker, thank you, Monica. Also, by the way, it is so beautiful for you to give permission to yourself and to everyone through this process of allowing people into your process at such an early stage. Casey's a graphic designer, photographer, musician living in Ashland, Oregon. Super passionate about documenting ancient sites around the world, creating educational content regarding Buckminster Fuller's synergetics, building community through music and art, and writing poetry. Casey has been an incredible collaborator for the Buckminster Fuller Institute and the Design Science Studio, and is so aligned. We're so grateful to have you here, and in general, thank you, Casey.
Thank you. I'm just now putting out the word on Facebook, so just give me 1 millisecond. That I'm going live right now. All right. Hey, everybody. I've created a little presentation for us, so I'll share my screen now. All right, can you all see this?
Yeah, it looks great.
Great, okay. My name is Casey House, and I'll be presenting a short introduction to a project I've been working on called Synergetics University. The objectives of this project are to provide an in-depth exploration of synergetic geometry, the work of Buckminster Fuller, and design science, and to facilitate conversations, educational experiences that catalyze humanity's intelligent and considerate participation in Earth's ecosystems. The university does this through 4 inter-accommodating offerings. 1 being an online course, 2 being a textbook and magazine, 3 being an online resource library, and 4 being prints, shirts, posters, toys, etc. These 4 educational events form a stable tetrahedron of learning. I chose a tetrahedron as the design because, as you would find out in taking the course, the tetrahedron is a minimum system, and Bucky considered it the fundamental model for integrity. This is a polyhedron that has been studied for since at least this time of Plato, and should be learned about early on in school. The tetrahedron can also be broken into smaller equal volume modules called A modules, which create a uniform design for the SynU curriculum. The online course of SynU is broken into 4 quarters or weeks, corresponding to the 4 faces of the tetrahedron. Each week of the course contains 6 modules for a total of 24 modules, corresponding to the 24 A modules of the tetrahedron. Ideally, the course would consist of a team of at least 2 educators that contribute to a well-rounded curriculum. This journey would coincide with a textbook that provides supplementary material. The textbook of SynU would be a modern education manual that provides an illustrated journey through synergetics and is a complete course in design science and nature's coordinating. As you can see here, I'm already well underway in producing this textbook and have created hundreds of pages of artful and informative graphics and writings. Along with the textbook, a quarterly magazine would be produced that distills the online content of BFI and its affiliates into edutainment pieces that inform and invite the world to participate. The magazine would feature interviews, articles, diagrams, and discussions, as well as creative digital to analog designs like this one, where Zoom room conversations and insights are shared with a global audience in a unique way. All the content being created, shared, and remixed is then put into an open source database of digital assets related to synergetics. This includes, but is not limited to, vector and raster graphics, PDF books, videos, etc. There would be a forum element that builds an online community of creators, and everything is able to be downloaded in the public domain and free to share. Finally, we would then generate toys, prints, clothing, and many other artifacts from the art created by the community. This would bring a culture of synergy back into physical spaces and give people a tangible and artistic experience of what harmonic relationships feels like. Synergetics University brings a renewal to the education and exploration of synergetics, design science, and Fuller's developments. This is important at this time since many of Fuller's books are hard to find and going out of print. In a time when we are gripped by greed, war, and weaponry, SynU builds accessible avenues into the Library of Nature's coordinating and invites designers and artists to develop artifacts of livingry. By presenting the fundamental principles of nature's design in a modern and artful way, people of all ages will be given access to new tools that help them envision a new world that works for everyone. In order to thrive, this project needs an exciting user interface and designers who create compelling user experiences, hosting for the online course, a publisher for the textbook and magazine, collaborators to flesh it all out with me and steer it away from my own echo chamber, and funding, and if the cosmic accounting system allows for it, collaboration with Amy Edmondson, the author of A Fuller Explanation. For more information, visit synu.com and please share with all your friends and colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Casey. Such an inspiration. Whenever you close the screen share, we're so meta right now. Wow. It's so powerful to get to see and just a bite-sized snippet of all of the work that you've been doing, so dedicated. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was up till 4 a.m, so this is like a laser focus.
It was very, very good and very clear. So deeply appreciate you for putting this together. Thank you, Casey. Thank you. So we're gonna see if we can get the slideshow up now for Sherry. And I'm gonna see if I can pull it up this way, and if not, we're gonna do one other version right after the next presenter. So with that, I will, it will work. Okay, cool. So we're gonna do a little dance, and so Sherry Wong, our next speaker, is a Turkish-Hawaiian artist and an AI ethics advocate who founded Icarus Salon to hold a unique art science perspective in the evolution of culture and technology. She is a new connection with the Design Science Studio and part of our broader network who is also committed on this path at this intersection of art and science. So Sherry, feel free to jump on stage. And I will present for you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, just let me know when to go to the next slide.
Okay, will do. So skipping the intro. So I use conceptual art to approach AI policy, and we're going to look at how this makes a lot of sense. And because the theme is becoming, I'm going to focus not on the work that I do, but on why I got into this work. So we can talk about like AI in a lot of different ways and how it impacts society. And we usually see people talking about like the Terminator or the Matrix. And that's kind of the stuff I avoid because I'm not interested as an artist in speculative futures. I'm interested in what's happening right now. Next slide. Great job. So, oh no, previous slide.
Oops.
Other way.
Is it?
Yeah. We're syncing. All right, thank you. So artists are leading the way in doing ethics for AI. They have had a historical, critical eye. They're also very often early adopters and the first ones to use new tools. Artists are inventors and storytellers. And the word technology is actually from the techne, the Greek word for craft, which is kind of like art and applied skill in the world, as opposed to like episteme, which is just being in your head. Next slide. Oh, are they still on?
Yeah, they went off and then they came back on.
Hey.
Is it working now?
I don't see it, but maybe others do.
It is not working on my.
Okay, cool. So let's try this again. It doesn't like PowerPoint. We're learning all the limitations with our new and exciting technology, guys. All right, we'll do one more. There we go. Okay, now we're back.
Yeah, this is a painting of mine. So I didn't used to work in ethics. I worked in aesthetics, and I didn't do AI. I did art. I was a painter, and I worked mostly in mythology. But then when I moved to San Francisco 11 years ago, I got into tech. Next slide. So I was an artist in residence and a program manager at Pier 9 about 6 years ago is when I started. It was an artist in residence by Autodesk where they had robots and all these futuristic machines. They had like programmers come in, all these creatives, and we were really sure that we were working like 10 years in the future. And all these things kind of made me think different about the world because like if you're working with machine learning and all these computers and they're making life a lot better, you start to question, well, who are they making life better for? Is it going to be sort of distributed to everyone? Are people going to lose their jobs? Next slide. So I've always thought about kind of like mythology, and when I looked around at these questions on who would be getting the benefits, I was also looking around San Francisco, which was undergoing big tech changes because you had driverless cars on the streets. We have on your sidewalk, you had like food delivery robots and drones are in the sky. Everyone's doing like VR parties. And you start to question what's going on because they're all kind of about money and not really about like the betterment of everyone else. Next slide. So the news also started to change. And these are some of the headlines that were popping up around a couple of years ago. They all deal with AI ethics. So you have tension with the military on autonomous weapons. You've got job displacement. Some people say we'll have 30 to 40% unemployment in the next 10 years. You have surveillance and facial recognition tech, which is even being used for genocide in places like in the Uyghur population in China. And of course, we have like social media and disinformation that is not just like our addictive sort of relationship to social media, but also one where it's about power, where we're changing the political climate in different countries all over the world. So why is this happening? You know, AI is supposed to help people and give a lot of promise and for our future. It's supposed to make lives better, but it's actually harming it instead. Next slide. So the AI scandals are not new. These are the same problems humanity has been dealing with. AI is made by us, it is based on us, and it's used on us. AI reflects back to us our racism and the gap between the rich and poor, inequality. And what we're seeing here mostly for a lot of the harms is a process called algorithmic decision making. So that's when you get a bunch of data and they crunch it up and it predicts an outcome. So it's using everything without our knowledge. It's when you're applying for a job, it reads resumes and whether or not you're getting interviews based on a computer. Whether or not someone gets a loan to buy a house is from a computer. What interest rates you get, computers. So this data, it's not perfect. But even if it were, the structural inequality surrounding AI and technology and the whole industry is problematic because that structure is our current society. And AI has a capacity to amplify our faults and problems and encodes them into the system. And it runs it with computerized efficiency. Next slide. So 2 years ago, I left my job at Autodesk and I started this think tank. And I named it after Icarus because everyone knows that myth. You know, Daedalus and Icarus is imprisoned in a tower and they try to escape. So Daedalus is his inventor father and he builds wings for them. And he's like, don't fly too high. The sun will melt your wax and you'll fall. But they also don't share very often that he also said not to fly too low because your wings will get wet. So it's an easy metaphor for technologists and AI researchers to not get carried away with their inventions or fly close to the sun, but to have a little bit of ambition and not fly too near the ocean because you're supposed to have like a middle ground. But I named it more after this painting and not just the myth, because this painting is Bruegel's Icarus. And you can barely see Icarus in the painting. See, his legs are dangling right by the ship over there. So the center of this painting is this everyday person, because that's actually the real story here. So there's a big lineage of other artists and poets who are using this painting to criticize and reinterpret the art piece for their own time. And for me, what this means, at the center of our conversation is not the fallen engineer or like the inventor who gets away with it. It's really everyday people. Next slide. So I thought that tech was a tool and it wasn't really, it was like a neutral thing. But now I know that it is not neutral. And it really depends on who's made it, why the tool was created, what data it's using, how the data was collected, how it was obtained, how it's stored. Next slide. So artists bring an independent perspective. And that can relate to usefulness, interpretation, representation. And artists can provide a different measure of impact and results than anyone else who just goes by the numbers. Historically, if you're into sort of digital art or invention, it's those mistakes or like an outside observer's comment that leads to a scientific breakthrough. A friend of mine, the painter Francis Reuter, taught me that an artist is like a migrant. They move from idea to idea, from material to another material, and in this sort of mobilization, artists catalyze material into organic and self-generating forms. So this has been true for centuries, and in many ways, AI as a culture, as a collective enterprise, it's been in development for as long as humans have been getting together in groups, because it's like a collective intelligence is actually an artificial intelligence. Next slide. So I realized that our regular approaches to regulating this technology is not going to be sufficient. It's not fast enough. International bodies just cannot innovate at the same speed as our tech pushes us to innovate in. So we really need to move differently than we have in the past. We need to move more creatively. And I don't think there's anything stronger than art to make this sort of cultural change that's necessary to push for policy change. That's because art is culture, and culture is what creates society. And when I say like we need more artists, I think we need more of all creatives. We need all the writers and filmmakers, musicians and inventors and everybody to start working in this kind of world. And that's because we're all facing existential risk from climate change, and we are also going through this during a transition from the industrial age to the information age. And we have one single global challenge, which is to change society in time to save ourselves. And when it comes to AI, we need to have artists help shape this transformation. We need to change our economic incentives for tech companies. We need to change political relationships between other countries. And we need to change our economic models. And we need to have this cultural change so the public asks for and demands for these things. Next. So this is, you can take, I don't know if you can see it, but I'll try to share a link on here a little bit later. I have a list of people you can follow on Twitter if you want to kind of follow the news on what's going on with AI. And I think it's important for everybody to do this because it's an opportunity when we're in a crisis situation, even with the pandemic going on, with everything else going on, to recreate the world so that it's more equitable. Because as artists or as creatives, we have a capacity to shape the world around us because we have already been doing just exactly that thing. All right, thank you. And that will be all, and I'll send some links for you guys.
Thank you so much, Sherry. One of the very inspiring things about when we began the Design Science Studio that happened was, we put the beacon out for not just artists, but all creators. And what came in was just that, data scientists and systems thinkers of all kinds, performers, community organizers, land-based project leads, and really rallied together for just this mission that you're speaking to. So thank you so much for being so articulate in this specific vision that we are all so committed to and striving towards as a part of the Design Science Studio. So next up, we're going to hear from Melissa Lockwood, who is an interdisciplinary artist. She's developed a method of pattern layout and garment production that creates more garments from what is usually waste. I just realized my mic was down, so I hope you guys can hear me. So Melissa Lockwood's an international artist. She's developed a method of pattern layout and garment production that creates more garments from what is usually waste. And she has been so incredibly active as a part of the Design Science Studio and is on a constant quest to really bring this vision to life. And her dedication has really been a beacon for so many. So as I share, you're all going to have such an enjoyable experience learning more about Melissa.
I'm going to be telling you about zero waste designs in fashion, and in particular, zero waste designs that can be mass produced, and they're focused in on traditional garments like jackets and pants and skirts. They can all be laid out, their parts laid out on the same piece of fabric, and nothing gets thrown away. So I'll show you a drawing of a layout pattern. You can probably tell the areas in white are the pants, jacket sleeve, back of pants, front of jacket, and then the areas in the red are what usually gets thrown away. And I figured out how that those odd-looking shapes can be easily transformed into a dress or a skirt. So I'm going to see if I can zoom a little here. And, well, I'm not giving you all the details right now because you can contact me and ask me for, a consultation or more information. I'll show you the actual garments that pattern made. The jacket, the pants. Oh, look at this skirt. And all I did was cut the pieces out and put them together in the most logical way. The long, narrow pieces go on the vertical axis, and they're all kind of long and narrow. So there were a couple squares, and actually even the masks were cut out of that same piece of fabric. So you saw that. It was like normal pants, normal jacket. It has a hood and those odd red shapes. I just sewed them together, and voila, a skirt. And I didn't labor over it. I just was like, I'm putting the pants on, switch it around a little, cut it out, took the jacket parts, took the pants parts, and then what was left, I just sewed them together. And so made this pair of pants. Exact same pattern. I cut out a jacket, pants, and the skirt. I really love these pants, and they fit fantastically. They actually really fit, and so I'm really thrilled. I'm like, wow, other people can do this. they have their fantastic designs because they're fashion designers. And I've seen dumpsters and dumpsters and dumpsters full of off-cut fabric waste where I could have seen a lot of unique garments manufactured but was thrown away. For the last 10 years, I was digging scraps out of dumpsters or pulling them out of bins in fashion studio, in the factory part where they cut it out, and just sewing them together. You can see all these things I've made even during quarantine, and I have another cabinet in the shop near here, has like 20-some dresses in it, and that's what's left. I don't know, I can show you. So, if you can chip in to help, I lost my income with the pandemic. I'm volunteering somewhere, and I'm making clothing. I'm doing all my experiments, and the Design Science Studios research project is, it's been really helpful because it's, very interesting and intellectual, and given me the chance to analyze more in depth how zero waste can be done with, really common garments and zero waste. And with that, just like that was the surprise. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And, one thing that I've learned even more over the past year is about how incredibly polluting the fashion industry was. I thought I knew, but I don't think I really had any idea. So thank you so much for creating a path forward and inspiring us all to not only think about how we might make better choices with what we can buy, but reuse what we have. And with that, we'll transition to our final presenter of this session. We've extended the time so that we can have and enjoy the 10-minute break after this. So we will open up that next mixer, which is a super cool feature of the platform where you get to mix up and connect with a random stranger who is here, who is likely a new friend of yours, for about 5 minutes. So we're excited to do that after this. In the interim, we'll introduce Strupi, who is coming from a background of traditional music and dance and a general love for the timeless crafts and skills. He dove into many forms of permacultural play, including capoeira Angola, and the awesome vastness of synergetics. He weaves the patterns of thought into regenerative time spaces and loves to share. And Strupi, thank you so much for being with us. You are always such a delight. Thank you. The floor is yours, my friend.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me. I don't know. This platform has been bumpy a little. Oh, and there goes the cat. Yeah, thank you all for having created this beautiful opportunity and this amazing space for us to meet here and exchange like this. And I don't really know what to do because there's so many things I would like to share with you and there's so little time. So I start with something that is dear to my heart. So I want to share with you as a spoken word one of my songs, or at least parts of it, because the theme of today is becoming. So this is my words of the song Regenerate. And that was my word that I created before I got to know regenaissance. So I was thinking about regeneration. And that would be like so. Breathe in and begin to be. Happen inside and outside of we. Breathe out and continue to feel. We became to this day to heal. Planet Earth giving birth over and over, 'cause the cosmos lives, loves to discover itself in as many forms as there are beings wandering among the stars, expressing experience existence, intrinsic interwoven interactions, evolving eternal emotions, inspiring incredible incarnations. Regenerate, react, return resilient, respect, reflect, relearn, refill land, water, and air. Reform, reborn, respawn, recover. Revive, recreate, regardenerate one another. So that was usually a song, so I skipped that because of time. And time is a good thing to join into, to jump into, because we've been hearing a bit about nonlinear thinking and nonlinear being, and I came to understand, due to synergetics, that really linear is an abstraction that we have learned, and we are all nonlinear, and nonlinear really means spherical. Everything about the universe and our existence is spherical. And so linear time is a crazy idea, and just to very briefly localize time within that moment where you are right now, I would suggest following the beautiful work of David Abram, that what is past is written into the bodies. It is inside. It's on the concave side of things. So, like the DNA or the year rings in a tree, or the history in the earth, past is there, but we can learn about it by listening, because sound is the medium to transmit memory and past and experience. Future is beyond the horizon, so whether it is a far horizon, a far future, or a close one, it is beyond the bodies, beyond what we can see. And presence is the space in between, filled not by nothing, but by air, by what is within and without us. So that's just those ideas. We could go deep into that, but as we all know, there is little time. So let's look at different things for a second. So our ideas of space and time have been long been shaped by abstractions that we have learned from people long gone. And those abstractions are at the ground of what we call geometry. So we learn that this is a square and this is a rational unit of area, where actually, well, what is it? It's not really anything but a transform. So this is not really helping. Whereas the same things, the same straws strung together with a string, but in a triangle, are stable and strong and can hold their shape. But this is because they are structure. And what we learn to consider space absolutely without time, because time would break the idea of this as space without the triangulation that is necessary. This is nonsense in the best sense of the word, because to make a cube that is stable, you need to triangulate it. You need to put in diagonals like so, and they can hold the cube. But they themselves make a different shape, which is this one. And we heard about it from Casey already. This is what usually is called a tetrahedron. But really, there is no hedron, there is no face here, there is eyes. So I like to call them many eyes, 4 eyes, and many. Maybe this could be a tetrops, if you want to talk Greek. But from there we go on, because space-time is not uniform but polyform, and this is also made from the same kind of triangles, which have 60 degrees everywhere. So they are not right angles, but let's call them left angles for simplicity's sake. So we have already two different kinds of structures with very different kinds of qualities. But that is only the beginning, because there is a third one. And this is one that is most famous from synergetics, because it is the basic idea for all those geodesic domes that everyone keeps building, just to put in cubic furniture, because, well, why not? I don't know, they don't fit in there, but yeah. This is a very big space, big enough for my face, for my head. So, you know, these things are made exactly from the same parts. You can literally transform one into the other, and they are actually part of one thing, as this demonstrates, which is the same thing that I'm stuck in right now. This is held in place by those sticks right now, but let me just take them out for a second. And I don't have an eye on the time, I'm sorry, so just tell me when we get close to...
You're good. You have about a minute.
Woo, a minute. Okay, so I show you this. Bucky called this the jitterbug. I call it the dance of the Tao. And this is the transformation between those three shapes that we've just seen.